going back to the question, how do we get people to want to learn how to program? I think that most people who've played games would want to create their own games, but not all of them would want to write code, program. And maybe it's also because most of them think that, like, if you look at many of the managers, for instance, their mindset is they just hire you. we we're not gonna do this ourselves. We'll hire you so you do it for us. I think that's the mindset that most people who are studying management, for example, would think about. And then for the graphic designers, I think most of them would get a job for someone who would know someone who can program. And I think they maybe say that we can pretty much survive. I mean, we don't need to learn how to program ourselves. It's changing that mentality because you get more and more people who are using tools like the Unity engine or something like that to be able to code as well, because they find that they can't find any programmers to do stuff with them or for them. There are not a lot of programmers who want to work with graphic designers in particular. Why? Because the graphic designers have a lot of ideas that they think is easy to do when you put it into code. Now, they don't want people telling them that responsiveness in terms of the UI can be quite tricky, that even programmers are having hard time with them. Why? Because there are so many browsers, there are so many mobile devices, resolutions, and all that. It's not very easy anymore, and yet they think that you're the programmer, that's your job. So there is this disconnect, right? That's why there are people who would want graphic designers also to learn how to program, but like I was saying a while ago, they they don't want to do that because, like in my case, what would happen is you will be the programmer. Because when I was starting, I was saying that I wanted to do both, to be able to draw really well, because at the time my drawing, if you look at my drawings, they weren't really the best. I knew already at the time that it was like that because I had classmates in grade school who were drawing much better than I was. Their drawings were like the ones that were sold, like the ones in Marvel or DC Comics type of drawings where you got the physique of the superhero really drawn quite like the ones in the cartoons and the DC or Marvel comics, but the drawings that I did were were simpler, cuter even, I guess. And I remember drawing the characters in Mortal Kombat, but turned into kind of like one of those cartoon characters that don't have the physique that I think most other illustrators would want to go for. So I knew then that my drawings weren't really the best, and there were so many other people who could do it much better than I did. And then, with regard to programming, I found that I had to take so many classes to be able to get the classes that I wanted. Classes like mathematics that I had to take to be able to get the subject where we would be taught how to create animation using some kind of software, because animation previously was something that you can do by drawing several, for example, several frames, and then you are gonna move them in a way that you got the first frame, second frame, third frame, fourth frame, and that's how you'd see it move, right? But the computer could help you do that much better, more efficiently. And I wanted to learn how to do that, especially because I also wanted to have the interaction part. I wanted to be able to interact with the characters in the virtual world, kind of like the Super Mario World game. And then I found that somehow I could pretty all right write code, although I knew later on too that I wasn't really the best. I think when I turned into a manager, most of the guys that were working with me had the feeling that I wasn't really good at programming. So it's an interesting observation, I think, because I think my style is really not the a style that most other programmers who are focused, who are specialized in their craft, are doing. Like for example, Miss Sasha Chua's video, these types of conversations or people looking for a specialized way to do certain things. I think most programmers are also doing something like that, but eventually you hit a point when you don't necessarily have to go that far, I think. So that was my own path that eventually led to people, programmers who already knew that I could pretty much program, supposedly began to have that I was not really as specialized in the craft anymore. And I also knew that I think my main advantage really is that if you're not doing it, I'm going to do it. And that's how I learned actually. And if I am doing it, then I am learning it in a way that might not be very efficient, but because I put in a lot of effort and most of my time is spent on doing something like this. I don't have other stuff that I also do, I guess, because many people, when they look at me, they say, maybe this guy has so much of his time doing these things and he really puts time into them, into these projects. But I think that it's it's true in a sense that in the sense that I spend my time doing these things and not really doing other stuff. Like I know there are people who want to enjoy hobbies, like play DOTA or play Mobile Legends or play cards, for example. I maybe try out these things but not play them very much. So because of that, I got quite a lot more time to do the projects, to work on these things. So that's why I also found out that most people who eventually were supposedly initially they were supposed to be learning how to program or learning how to create games, and they begin to put in more time into playing more games. Maybe they had an idea that we should learn how to to play these games and how to design games based on what we can play, what we can play and what we can learn from these games, right? So you play more so that you can learn more how they're done. But eventually, what happened was they were playing more than learning how to really create the thing themselves. And later on, they think that I'd rather play games rather than create the game, because creating game would require math, would require a lot more effort, I guess, for them. So in my case, I'd maybe play or try out some of these games, but not put in so much of my time playing them. And instead, I'd create the games because I thought that it was a lot more fun to create the games. It was also kind of like playing the game yourself because you're creating the world and you're trying to see if you can move the character from this to that, and then seeing if you can pull off some kind of physics. And I thought that it was a lot more fun because definitely when you are, for example, writing code and creating some of the rules, physics, or any of the things that you use to know that you maybe have won or have lost. Those are also kind of like something that you can quickly get feedback from. So you try this out, it doesn't work, then there's something wrong. So you have to think about how to fix it and then try it out and then you get feedback, right? And I think the games also were doing something like that. That's why most people who were playing like Dota or something like that wanted to continue on playing those games. Only in my case, I chose the path toward actually learning how to create the games rather than just playing the games.